Ayan, hello mga kameta, kamusta kayo dyan? Ayan, tsaka yung mga bago natin, mga kasama, followers, mga kabatas na rin, medyo sumama na sa atin, hindi ko na alam yung mga kabanat bahay or mga kamaharlika, hindi pa yata sumasama sa atin sa ating journey. Ito lang masasabi ko, yung conversation namin kagabi with attorney Libayan, of course I call him Kapsat because we're both baggy boys and we have a lot of common things in between us, and ayoko naman yung honorifics na may nagsabi, bakit wala pong honorifics? Ano ba tayong barangay chairman po tayo na nag-honorifics po tayo? Sa Pilipinas lang nag-honorifics na architect, engineer, I don't know, prof, or ano, kaya sabi ko just call me Richard na lang. I mean, it's embarrassing when they put honorifics. Sa ibang bansa, pagtatawanan ka, paglalagyan mo ng honorifics lahat ng tayo, mga architect, engineer, it's only in the Philippines. Ito yung medyo pedal yung ganun, no? But of course, I understand naman sa context na nowadays na maraming mga scammers, maraming mga pretenders, maraming mga con artists. Ayan, lalong-lalo na yung isa tumatakbo ngayon bilang presidente sa US. Batang-bata pa, con artist na. In light of all of those things, of course, naintindihan ko na minsan we have to emphasize, of course, saan yung expertise natin. And I really appreciated yung conversation kahapon with Kapsat Libayan, attorney Libayan, because, ganito, I think sa Pilipinas, no, aminin natin, medyo may pagka-third world pa rin tayo. Hindi lang sa ating infrastruktura, hindi lang sa ating mga airports, ganun. May pagka-third world din tayo in terms of mindset. So I think one of the biggest, I think there are like two layers of misunderstanding pagdating sa Pilipinas, no, pagdating sa ating public discourse. Unang-una, this is very third world. Aside from putting honorifics and all of that, and unfortunately sometimes having honorifics kind of helps you to get through the guard, or I don't know, all of those things. I understand that. In the same way, being Karen also helps. But dalawa yung nakikitang problema sa ating bayan, no? Una-una, I think there's over-reverence for expertise, no? Na, ito ay ganito, ito ay professor sa ganitong university, ito yung abogado sa ganitong university, ito yung scientist na galing sa ganitong institution, ito yung dating presidente, blah, blah, blah. So we tend to be not very critical and just rely on credentials. Pero alam naman natin na pagdating sa mga experts, even among scientists and experts, there is no consensus on a lot of issues, no? In fact, sa siyensya, sa scientific community, there's constant debates, no? Including sa physics, for instance. For a long time, it was Newtonian physics until Einstein came in, and over time, na-prove na correct si Einstein dun sa theory of relativity niya. There could be a post-Einsteinian, yung mga string theory, mga ganun. So, I'm just giving examples that in even the so-called hardest sciences, like physics, yung idea na etong scientist siya yung may final say, pagtatawanan yan sa isang seryosong konteksto, because we know that no argument is final in a sense that everything can be disproven with new evidence, etc. And that's in hard sciences like physics. Now, which brings me to the second issue, very, very important, actually three layers, is I think we tend to also have over-reverence for certain professions, including economics, including law, etc. Now, in the economic profession, kanina na-post ko na, one of the fascinating I find with the Philippines is that over the past 50, 60, 70 years of the Philippines developmental experience, konti lang talaga yung mga naging ekonomista who were influential and at the same time correct in terms of pushing for the kind of policies that will make the Philippines a truly industrialized country. Yung isang dahilan na Pilipinas ay hindi industrialized country in a real sense of the word until now is not hindi lang na may trapo tayo, but the problem is that our trapo sometimes appoint supposed high caliber experts and economists who end up giving advices that doesn't really make the Philippines competitive. It makes us a good market for other countries. It makes us a nice-looking debtor model nation, all of that nonsense. But the fact that for almost 5, 6, 7 decades, wala pa tayong na-build na mga global industries, that's as much as the fault of our oligarchs and our trapos as it is of the so-called technocrats and experts who have been in charge of the government. I mean, think of Tatay Digong, for instance, Tatay Digong types of this world na walang alam sa economics, no? Sino sa tingin niyo nagdidesisyon sa mga bagay-bagay, no? It's the so-called technocrats, no? And tingnan no, ano yung track record natin mga economists and technocrats in terms of building the kind of world-class industries we're looking at, no? Do we have anything like even the rudimentary manufacturing industries na nakikita natin sa Malaysia, sa Indonesia, and increasingly now also in Vietnam. Now, there are of course many factors that explain why Vietnam, yung proximity sa Pearl River Delta, supply chain issues. I understand all of that. But the reality is that sasabihin mo lang na ang may kasalanan lang mga trapos or dynasties or oligarchs, you're missing the picture. Which brings me to the level 3. Actually, 3 levels to this, is that dito sa Pilipinas napansin ka, and this is very third world, honestly, pag sinabi mo yun sa Amerika, or sinabi mo yun dun sa mga first world countries, pagtatawanan ka, yung idea na mga abogado lang pwede magsalita sa mga political issues, or mga abogado are best fit to deal with governance issues. Like, first of all, FYI, one of the most effective leaders we have had in our regions alone, whether it's Mahathir, medical doctor, Lee Kuan Yew, well, he was a lawyer, but he's quite a special case. But Deng Xiaoping, for instance, in the case of Deng Xiaoping, engineering background. In fact, if you look at many successful countries around us, they're not led by lawyers; they're led by engineers, experts, doctors. Jose Rizal, our greatest leader, was a doctor. So, I think meron tayong medyo over-obsessions with mga abogado, thinking that abogados have like kind of a secret understanding of how governance works. And, going back to this issue, meron din yung misunderstanding na mga abogado lang pwede magbigay ng, valid understanding in terms of public governance, etc. Well, again, that's very third world, very Filipino way of looking at things. Because if you go to the United States or you go to any first world country, their leading thinkers are people with backgrounds in journalism or law or politics or philosophy or even literature, right? Walang kinalaman yan dun sa legal training, no? The leading political thinkers of our era, the most influential people, come from very diverse backgrounds. Even in the tech companies nowadays, they're not relying only on engineers or STEM people, but on a very diverse background of people. So I think, again, this shows na medyo mababa pa rin yung kalidad ng ating pag-intindi dun sa anong mga expertise na kailangan natin para magkaroon tayo ng sapat na pagsusuri sa mga bagay na pampolitika or sa issues ng governance, etc. So, nevertheless, having said that, I always appreciated having conversation with people who are not just confined to their field, but who have a kind of an eagle-eye view understanding of broader issues that affect our country. And people are open to learn, people are open to discuss. And in my case, for instance, many things I was able to predict about ano yung maging direction ng foreign policy ni BBM. I mean, you can go to my books from 2015, more or less, I predicted someone like Duterte will come in. Although I was thinking something more Binay, but someone pro-China. I saw that. And then you look at my articles last year, sabi ko, pag BBM, it's not gonna be Tatay Digong. Where do you think I got those ideas? I got those ideas not from what's in our constitution or saligang batas. That's a dumb way of putting it. I got that because of system analysis. You get that because of ebbs and flows of institutions. You get that because of psychological analysis. You get that because of analysis of multiple factors, multivariant analysis. So those are the things that you learn in the world of journalism, in the world of social sciences, by reading widely, by reading about other countries, by meeting leaders from other countries, by meeting experts from other countries. Ganito po yung approach. I mean, the same way natatawa ako dati na pag nagkaroon ng diskusyon dun sa West Philippine Sea, nagtaturfing yung mga ibang abogado, bakit dapat kami lang magsalita kasi UNCLOS ang pinag-usapan? I mean, again, we had people like Jay Batumbakal, Dr. Attorney Professor Batumbakal, who made it absolutely clear that this is not a lawyer turf thing. This is a full-fledged, comprehensive analysis ng lahat ng mga bagay-bagay na nagko-contribute dun sa state of affairs, whether dito sa West Philippine Sea, bakit hindi sumusunod ng China, anong gagawin natin para ma-depensahan natin yung national interest. Again, so I think one of the unfortunate things I realized dito sa Pilipinas, hindi ko nakita yan sa Amerika or sa ibang bansa. So tayo po ay nagbigay ng speeches in Harvard, Stanford, Johns Hopkins, Leiden University, Peking University, Australian National University, National University of Singapore, lahat yan, nag-speech na tayo all around. North Korea, sa Kim Il-sung University po, nagbigay din tayo ng speech, di ba? In addition to, of course, yung speech natin ngayon sa ASEAN Summit. When you go to that, you have to have really a global understanding. You have to understand the broad sweep of history. You have to understand the evolution of institutions. You have to understand the philosophy of governance. You have to understand leadership. So, yun po yung ginagawa natin dito sa ating mga podcasts. not only me, but when we talk to people from different backgrounds, and this is where I'm very happy and very proud because if you want to talk about the broad sweep of history, kausap po natin si Professor Lisandro Claudio from UC Berkeley among others. If you want to understand insider view how the Philippine governments work, of course you have good friends like Secretary Llamas. And then of course, and this is where I really appreciated yung conversation natin with yung mga kabatas dyan, si Attorney Libayan. And what I appreciate about Attorney Libayan is that he, of course, his YouTube, his audience is all about showing the basics of law, etc., jurisprudence, which is fantastic, which is important. I'm so glad that someone like him came out and is doing this thing. Kailangan talaga natin more of that. I keep on pushing other friends. We have to do more of that. At the same time, yung napansin ko kahapon dun sa 2 oras namin na conversation and very spontaneous and very back and forth, walang sleep, etc. is gaano kalawak yung kanyang pag-intindi ng sitwasyon natin. Malawak at compassionate yung intindi niya sa ating kababayan. Bakit ganito yung binoboto natin? Bakit yan ang mga gusto natin? Saan galing demand for a leader like Duterte? So, I really like that. I really like talking to people who can go beyond their just immediate niche, right? Beyond their just immediate training. Hindi sila confined, no? At ako naman, I mean, not to be overly pretentious, but Renaissance men like Rizal were always my inspiration because these were people who could converse jack of all trades, no? But you have to be king of one thing at least or two, right? But you have to be jack of all trades. Ganito po kasing kailangan natin. Otherwise, ang mangyari dito sa atin is magkakaroon tayo ng niche conversation lang. Lahat ng mga ekonomista dito, lahat ng mga foreign policy dito, lahat ng mga abogado dito. At para sa akin, yung ganitong diskurso, parang nag-workshop ka lang, 'di ba? Parang ginawa mo lang kaysa doon lang sa university mo, sinama rin yung mga ibang naging parang guild. I call that guild discourse. And yun yung hindi ko na-appreciate. At nakita niyo when we talk to people from very diverse background, very very diverse background. So, na-interview po natin si Attorney Carranza, who's an international human rights lawyer and humanitarian law expert, right? Kinausap natin about ICC, but when I talk to Attorney Carranza, we don't only talk about ICC, we talk about politics of ICC, we talk about different case studies, we talk about geopolitics, we talk about mumbo-jumbo stuff by Trapos, ganyan po yung style natin. Or kung nakausap po natin yung mga people like Attorney Batambakal or Dr. Batambakal, pinag-usapan namin ang UNCLOS, pero hindi lang UNCLOS, yung United Nations Convention, ano yung kasaysayan niya, saan galing yung motivations, what are the forces that contributed to that, and then nakausap po natin si Admiral Ong, no? Very different naman yung perspective, more like military, mathematics, navigation, naval warfare. So yun po yung ginagawa natin dito, at to be honest, kahapon medyo napagod ako. I think I'm still recovering kasi medyo hectic schedule and I have to get back on the road again. God willing, inshallah. Just because ang dami kailangan natin. That's the thing, I constantly try to keep updated. No, I try to go here and there, different places, different countries, talk to people, talk to experts from different backgrounds. I want to understand the semiconductor situation in Taiwan more. I want to understand more about the elections in Taiwan. I want to understand more about China-US dynamics. So you meet experts, you don't just read about it. No? So yun po, and here I also appreciate what we're having now because, kahapon with Attorney Libayan, we had this very fascinating conversation about how he distinguishes between Duterte and Tulfo. As you can see, I was a bit skeptical of some of the arguments there because my stance is, honestly, it comes down to it. You could say Tulfos are milder version of Duterte. Because yes, Duterte is a lawyer, but, I mean, as far as, saying, I don't think the Tulfos have ever sanctioned or openly called for EJK or mass atrocities. Last time I checked, the ICC case is against who again? Not against the Tulfo. So I have some disagreements there, but I appreciated yung honest, sincere, spontaneous conversation and appreciate ko rin naman na very responsive and back and forth. Kaya I look forward to having more and more conversation, not only with Attorney Libayan, but all of these people from very diverse background who have, I think, very strong feelings and strong opinions on things, and it's because, they have knowledge about what's happening on the ground, they have an understanding of the situation on the ground, they have their own convictions and values. So ang ginagawa natin sa mga conversation natin is we try to bring that out. We try to flesh it out, diba? Because ang nangyari is pag, kunyari, ako lang nagsalita tapos nakinig lang kayo sa akin, that's just the first level of analysis. Hindi masyadong obvious saan galing yung argument ko in a sense that bakit I'm arguing this instead of that. And ako naman, I was trained as a debater in college, etc. So I can literally argue any side of any argument, right? Any major issue you give me. But there's a reason why I choose to argue a certain side because of certain moral standards, because of certain issues with sequences, with timing, what is relevant for our country at this point in time, etc. So, maraming bagay yan, no? Maraming bagay na nandun. So, I hope that we can continue these kinds of conversations. So, maraming salamat again sa lahat ng mga nag-comment kahapon. I was a bit worried kasi kahapon, not like I'm worried. Alam niyo naman, medyo makapal ang mukha natin. But I was a little bit concerned because Duterte, Tulfo, diba? BBM, well, at least kay Mayor Magalang medyo okay. I mean, these are all controversial figures yung pinag-usapan natin. So I was a bit concerned about all these trolls trying to, overwhelm our system. Ilang beses nag-crash pa yung YouTube feed natin kahapon. But I think 99% of the comments were very sound. In fact, I saw a lot of people who were like Tulfo supporters or Digong supporters, and they were either pleasantly surprised by Attorney Libayan's point of view or by my points of view. It's like, gets ko. So, dyan galing yung sinasabi mo. Gets ko dyan. Kasi ang problema is, dahil purong silo-silo lang nangyari. Hindi yung silo ng series na ito. Ang nakikita lang ng tao is that, parang, they get to know, I don't know, about Attorney Libayan through, I don't know, Banat Bay maybe. Or they get to know about Haydarian through you know who, right? Yung mga ganun. Instead of really listening to us, saan kami galing, explain namin yan. So I think I'm very glad to be able to do that. And I look forward to having more of those kinds of conversation. As you can see, completely spontaneous tayo. No notes, no script whatsoever. Kasi iniisip namin na malaliman mga bagay niyan. In my case, practically everything we talk about here, I have written something about it. And I've not just written some blog or substract about it. I've written columns, national newspaper, I've written books, journal articles, etc. about it. Because that's what talagang kailangan natin dito sa Pilipinas. Malaliman na pagsusuri. Dahil ang nangyari sa atin is, ito yung presidente, kalimutan mo yung next, ito yung presidente. Parang, we're just like passengers journeying through time. Wala tayong masinsinan na pagsusuri. And sabi ng tao, tapos na elections, move on na tayo. Paano ka mag-move on if you're not examining, understanding what happened? Kaya nga sabi ni Socrates via Plato, life unexamined is not worth living. In the same way, a country that doesn't examine itself is never going to be a mature democracy. So kaya nga po, yun ang ginagawa natin. And the fact na nakita ko na ang laki nung engagements nila siguro Attorney Libayan, and tayo naman sometimes we have millions of views dun sa mga random na, I mean, that means there is a hunger for this. And kahapon I'm very proud because yung 2-hour podcast namin sumabay pa dun sa sobrang gandang match ng Slovenia and Canada, which I caught. I tried to check the highlights. Of course, nalungkot tayo kasi Luka, mahal naman natin yan si Luka. Tsaka yung color kasi niya Luka, ito di ba? Turquoise, di ba? So, favorite color natin yan. So, I was hoping they'll win, but Canada is fantastic. I'm super happy about Canada ever since. I mean, yung isang talo nila hindi ko talaga naintindihan. But let's see, Canada and I think Germany are really the breakout stars of this tournament. But let's see what's gonna happen. But anyway, I'm glad that even though kasabay namin ng FIBA World Cup, Luka, arguably the biggest best player of our era, or in NBA at least, ang dami pa rin nanood sa atin. Sobrang I think at least 1,000 or 2,000. On my side pa lang, I think 1,000 or 2 ang may live views tayo. Well, it's not the 6, 7, 8,000 we were getting during election, sure, but I think it's still fantastic that people can stick around for a 2-hour conversation. And tsaka yung ginawa namin is, dahil ang haba ng conversation, I divided it into 3 parts. Actually, it could be 4 parts. So one part is about yung background ni Attorney Libayan, how he became the Attorney Libayan that he is. And then, of course, yung life story niya with Mayor Magalong. That's fascinating. Yung kanyang father-in-law. I heard about it, but I was not sure. So I had to ask him, and on the record, he was very open about it. Second part, Duterte legacy, drug war. Mahalaga yan because kabatas siya, di ba? So, kabatas. So, gusto ko maintindihan, how would someone so passionate about his profession of law understand the Duterte phenomenon? Because Duterte himself is also a lawyer. Right, but ironically, in the Philippines, the 2 times we got a lawyer in the past century as president, both of them ended up like one is Ferdinand Marcos Sr., one is Digong, no. And then on Tulfos, the Tulfo one, as you notice, medyo nagpo-push back ako doon. Not because, kapatid si Tulfo, idol, Rafi, or ganun. No, hindi naman necessarily. Because what I tried to do since last year was try to be fair. Even kay Robin Hood, mga ganun, I'm trying to be fair. Okay, binoto silang tao, let's try to understand where is this coming from, right? So I've tried to be fair. And I'm very glad na very sincere yung response naman ni Attorney Libayan na where is he coming from. I think his understanding that he feels that yung ganyan vigilante justice or whatever toolful version of justice, para sa kanya, parang isang assault on sa kanyang profession. Ako naman, I try to explain it na in the same way na sa tingin mo, marami bumoto kay Digong dahil akala nila hindi gumagana yung standard operating procedures. So, kaya nga binoto si Digong para ma-shortcut. So, in a way, dapat maintindihan mo rin bakit gusto ng tao yung mga tulfos. Except, the good thing with the tulfos is that walang open incitement to violence, no? Which for me is a good thing. And the second thing for me is that since Tulfo, Idol Rafi Tulfo came to power, and na-interview din natin si Secretary Erwin, now Congressman Erwin, and well, soon a top contender also for Senate. Very reasonable kausap. And my sense is the office has transformed them. I'm more optimistic on the trajectory of the Tulfos, especially Erwin and Idol. Ay, hindi ko alam kay Ben. Sorry na lang, sir. Or Monel. Pero kay Idol Rafi and kay Rafi and kay Erwin, I'm quite cautiously optimistic about their direction, no? But as much as I understand where is the overall skepticism from people like Attorney Libayan coming from. But that's my point, eh. If we're gonna be nuanced on Duterte, well, in the case of Tulfos, they never incited violence in the same way that we saw under Tatay Digong. So I just felt we had to bring out that argument. But I'm very happy about how things turned out, and I'm sure this is conversation we can continue. But actually, there should have been a fourth part, and I'm gonna end on this note because sorry, habol pa ako eh. Medyo intense yung schedule natin. The fourth part, actually, I wanted to separate this and put it in a separate episode. Is BBM. Because how should I put it? Kasi, ganito, nung nanalo si BBM, nag-panic mode ng maraming tao, nag-PTSD pa nga yung iba, diba? As in, literally PTSD yung iba. Because, ang idea was Marcos Jr. will be a snowball effect of Digong and like Tatay Digong plus Father Marcos Sr. Na the idea was that, nako po, tapos ng laban. Diba? There was really this sense. At you can see, literally the date after elections, may article tayo sa Nikkei Asia in Tokyo, no cause for panic. Not because I believe BBM is like a bastion of progressive politics and all. No. I just felt like, chill lang tayo, wait lang. I mean, like, don't press the panic button yet because this could turn out quite more fluid and potentially in the positive direction. And especially in foreign policy, I was always more optimistic. So, if you look at my articles in May, June, July, essentially nakita natin saan papunta yung direction, which is exactly where we are right now. Right? Now, hindi ako nagyabang because at the same time, aminado kang hindi ko na-anticipate yung mawala lahat ng mga vloggers, yung mga Maharlika, yung mga sino yung mga iba dyan? Yung Sangkay Jan, yung mga ganyan types. I was expecting them to stick around. Yun ang hindi ko na-anticipate, including Vic Rodriguez, Paul Soriano. I thought those people will have more staying power. Yun yung pagka-purge na nangyari doon. Yun yung hindi ko na-anticipate. So, see, I'm keeping tabs, no? But on the foreign policy direction, emphasis on economics, I think we perfectly got that. So far. At least based on dun sa mas... Now, this is where things get interesting because ang naririnig ko ngayon, including from not DDS people, because I saw some people responded na, hindi, it's a DDS. No less than Senator Nancy Binay said earlier this year, and I keep on hearing this, not only from Senator Nancy Binay, I'm hearing it from many corners, na ang concern daw nila, masyadong soft daw, masyadong mabait, quote-unquote mabait, right? Si BBM. So parang, that's quite interesting. So a year ago, you guys were panicking, or many people were panicking na BBM is gonna turn out essentially Marcos 2.0, like in a dictatorial way, and like he's gonna push the Duterte agenda to its conclusion, magiging province of Chinatown. Well, it didn't turn out that way, right? We have the most tense relationship with China right now. Tignan nyo yung conversation ni Li Qiang, yung premier ng China at ni BBM. Tignan mo yung intervention ni BBM, how he talked in favor of, wag nyo kaming bastusan. Don't say na West Philippine Sea, South China Sea disputes, it's just between China and US. Hello, nandito po kami. Kasi yun ang pinaka-bobong argument na sasabihin mo, yung nangyari sa West Philippines, awayan lang ng mga giants. Hindi yan awayan lang mga higante. Ano yan, pagbubuli yan sa atin mga mas maliliit na bansa. At dahil mas maliit tayo, humingi tayo ng tulong sa ibang mas higante para i-counter-bully yung bully, di ba? So don't spin this. Don't spin this into some sort of countering American hegemony, blah, blah, blah. Alright? Very clear yan. And by the way, President Marcos Jr. did not use the term West Philippine Sea. Because FYI, I worked in the government back then. This is the early 2010s. I wrote a piece on that. You can check it on the Diplomat. West Philippine Sea does not refer to entire South China Sea Basin. Eh di kung ganun, di kiniklaim natin yung EEZ ng Malaysia, Vietnam. No. The West Philippine Sea only refers to our own EEZ within the South China Sea Basin. So roughly 10 to 15% of the entire basin. So, but President Marcos Jr. was talking about the entire South China Sea Basin. He was speaking in behalf of all smaller countries, Malaysia, Vietnam, etc. Now, whoever is a speechwriter, whatever, good job. Because it's exactly what I've been arguing for quite some time. Thumbs up, and thumbs up to the President for mentioning this, because that's an intervention we had to make. If you look at dun sa aking sariling intervention in the ASEAN Business and Investment Summit, I was arguing something similar. But anyway, going back to this. So we have this weird situation whereby, yes, it's true na may mga DDS dyan na tingin nila si BBM ay masyadong soft dun sa drug war, soft sa, NPA, mga ganyan, mga red tagging, etc. But we also hear people like Nancy Binay, or not DDS, anything but DDS, also arguing that masyadong mabait si BBM. So parang, this is kind of weird. So 1 year ago, nagpapanik ang tao na Marcos Jr. will be like Marcos Sr. or like Tatay Digong 2.0, and then now suddenly the consensus masyado siyang mabait. Like, dito, nakikita mo, may problema talaga tayo sa ating diskurso. There's a problem with understanding how leadership works. Right? Now, none of this means na satisfied ako sa nangyari. No, I mean, I really want the president to have a strong anti-corruption agenda. Will he do that? Okay, mapag-usapan yan. I want the president to have a strong industrial and trade policy. Well, let's see. Let's have conversation with some people who's advising him. That's one of the things I'm looking at, talking to the business sector, etc. Okay. So, yeah, agree naman ako, that the president has to have a decisive policies on anti-corruption, on industrial policy, do something with the smuggling. I get it. Pero ang problema ko kasi dito is, hindi ba yun ang exactly kailangan natin after 6 years of tatay? Medyo mas refined, medyo detox. That's exactly what we needed. That's exactly what we needed. Yung iba dyan parang prof, parang medyo Gen Z ka na ngayon. Sabi ko, anong secret mo? Ang secret yan, hindi na si tatay yung presidente. Kaya, biglang Gen Z na tayo. Hindi na tayo naging you know what I'm saying? I mean, at least we needed a little bit of that detox. Again, this doesn't mean I'm not critical on certain issues. I'm very much on the record, I said, diba? Na pagdating sa anti-corruption, mahina pa rin. Yung Maharlika Fund, di ba? Like, of course I have concern. Yung fighting sa smugglers, you need to be tough. I understand that. We had conversation also with Secretary Ronald Llamas about it. Like, what are you gonna do about the oligarch situation? Right? On anti-competitive practices. Are you gonna be nice to them? Of course not. But that's my point eh. When people, I think, complain that BBM is too soft, a lot of them actually don't mean it in a sense of decisive reforms and structural reforms. I think they mean it in like, be like Tatay Digong, murahin mo sila, awayin mo sila. And that's exactly what I disagree with. Hindi yun ang kailangan natin eh. Ang kailangan natin is systematic, firm, and decisive. But not bastos. Not palaaway. Not barangay style. Alright? We need to be systematic about it. And after 6 years of whatever, we need a bit of a detox. Nevertheless, ang argument ko dito is, and a lot of idiots there, kind of misconstrued it and all. Ang argument ko dito is, yung nakita natin dun sa kanyang speech during the Pampanga situation, di ba? May sinulat tayo ukol dyan eh. Remember that Pampanga situation, pumunta si President Marcos, Pampanga naging konyo. Pampanga, pumunta si presidente doon sa Pampanga, di ba? Tapos andun si former Secretary DPW Season, and then pinag-usapan niya yung kailangan nila mga, irrigation systems or whatever systems na kailangan nila. And then biglang nagmaganda yung isang LGU leader na dyan, ready na siya, nagwawala siya. Shut down siya kaagad ni BBM. Like, no, excuse me, hindi po yung scientific. Ganito po yung siyensya. Pag kinalbo mo yung dito, yung topsoil niya bababa dito, hindi mo pwede gawin ganito. Yan. And the way, like, just, BBM just like, like, showtime, di ba? He just took over, right? Like, 100%, he just, boom, took over, and he just shut her down immediately. Like, siguro yung kabila, ready na, naka-TikTok na sila. Andun na yung mga kanilang vlogger. Kasi wala nang vlogger si BBM, di ba? Naka-ready na. Si ganito, lumaban kay BBM, asserted our... And then, shut down yung BBM. Immediately, boom. Immediately, shut down niya. At in-explain niya, hindi, ito yung siyensya. Pag kinalbo mo dito, baka ba yung topsoil, hindi mo pwedeng ganyan. So, wag kayong gumawa ng ekek dyan. Makinig kayo kay Secretary Season because he knows engineering. He was in the DPW Secretary under Aquino. And he could potentially be of course he didn't say it, but he could most likely be our next Secretary of Water, right? So, sa tingin ko, that's a good template na bagay doon sa personality ni BBM. Hindi bastos, hindi aggressive, hindi populist, hindi palaing, as we say in Ilocano, na pasikat, hindi performative, but authoritative. Right? So what we need is not an authoritarian strongman leader because every time we had an authoritarian strongman leader, bara-bara, corruption, kapalpakan nangyari. Not to mention yung mga nangyari sa West Philippine Sea. Although in fairness kay Marcos Sr., he was far more patriotic on the West Philippine Sea issue than, fill in the gaps. But what we need is authoritative leader. Right? Nakikinig ka sa kanya, hindi dahil natatakot ka sa kanya or minura ka, binastos ka, inambaras ka. Nakikinig ka sa kanya dahil firm, reasonable yung kanyang explanation at assertive siya, pero hindi bastos. See, getting that right balance is not easy. And we saw in that moment that Marcos Jr. could be that person. Are we seeing enough of that? Maybe not. Maybe we should see more of that. Maybe he should hire someone to be his media guy to more emphasize that side of him. Because yung lumalabas is yung parang mabait siya, ganun. I think that authoritative side, that's what's needed. Now, again, marami dito siguro hindi bumoto kay BBM. Marami rin dito hindi tinatanggap na nanalo si BBM. Marami dito yung ginagawa kay BBM, yung ginagawa ng supporters ni BBM kay Lenny. Gets ko yan. I understand the emotions. I understand that. But at the end of the day, he's our president until 2028. Right? At least. Diba? So, kaya ngayon, ang tanong, how do we make sense out of the situation? And how do we push the situation in the right direction? And how do we make sure na in the meantime, while ito yung presidente, hindi yung manok mo, sinong gusto mo, how do we make sense out of things? And, guess what? Sometimes, what we say matter. Not just what I say, but nakita natin, di ba, nung sa Twitter, dami nagwala dun sa, yung sa immigration, di ba, may mga guidelines na ek-ek, na parang iba pag foreigner, iba pag Pilipino. Tapos, di ba, may mga iba dyan na they lost their flight dahil pumunta dun sa immigration, ang daming tanong. Oh, by the way, speaking of immigration, si Sir Ali, kamusta po kayo dyan? Yan, marami tayong kaibigan dyan sa immigration, sa airport, mga kametas natin. No, yan. No, I mean, going back to this, see, people power works on social media. I always say this you never know who's listening to you. You never know who's listening to you. Kasi, unlike Twitter, kasi sa Twitter, medyo alam ko na sino mga nagpo-follow sa akin. Like, Prime Minister Turnbull, I mean, hindi tayo nagyayabang, but, I know the ambassadors, and, kulang lang si Obama, okay. Hindi, siguro soon. But you never know You never know. So, I think what's important here is kaysa magnega-nega lang tayo all the time or maghanap na naman tayo ng tatay style na bara-bara, let's work with what we got and move forward. At doon talagang agree ako kay Attorney Libayan na tinanong ko sa kanya, bakit ka naiinis ko niya kay sabi ito kasi yung mga ibang DDS yan, pinipilit na parang si Digong pa rin ng president. Tapos na yung usapan na yan. Again, as I said, in fairness naman, naintindihan ko saan galing mga DDS because alam nila malaking contribution nila dun sa 60%, diba? Gets ko na yan. Pero tapos na yan The very fact na BBM, first day pa lang, inassert niya sinong presidente, right? Hindi niya binigay yung Speaker of the House kay si Tita. Hindi niya binigay yung DND kay yung isa. Pero Kahit di na siya DND. Ilan daw, sabi nung Commission of Edit, ilan daw yung ano niya, security guards. Talo pa si Gibo doon, ha? Batalyon ba? Anyway, you get what I'm saying? Now, what I'm saying here is this. May moments si BBM doon sa decision niya sinong DND. Doon sa decision ng speaker. First days pa lang yan, boom. May moment siya doon sa Pampanga. I would say hindi na-appreciate yan, pero maganda yung kanyang intervention doon sa ASEAN. When I say intervention, intervention means like, there's a plenary, it's a plenary speak, alright? It doesn't mean nag-away-away kayo na military intervention. No? There are those moments, pero we need more of that. And it's still mabait in a sense that it's refined, statesman-like, but it's also authoritative. It's also firm and there's conviction behind that. Yun ang mas kailangan natin. Kailangan natin from President Marcos Jr. in the next 5-6 years. Especially after midterm elections. Because let's be honest, ang tanong dito sa midterm election is how big? Meaning, how big will be the victory of BBM? Is it gonna be kasing laki ng 1 kilo ng bigas? Is it gonna be... Okay, I mean, that's the point. Kahit yung issue ng bigas ay ganito, approval pa rin niya 70-80%, diba? And at the rate Tatay Digong is going, mukhang malabo na malaki ang mga panalo nila sa midterm elections, diba? Kasi parang de facto opposition na sila, especially dun sa China issue, West Philippines, si EDCA, diba? So ang tanong dito is, how big will be the victory of the pro-BBM bloc? At ngayon pala alam natin, the president is already rallying a mega coalition, including some more opposition-ish. Pero ito yung mga never Duterte type na kahit ayaw kay BBM, dahil never Duterte sila, susuportahan nila si Marcos. Kasi may mga never Marcos, marami. Pero may mga never Duterte din na mas never Duterte kaysa never Marcos. So Marcos could build a grand coalition for 2025. And if he wins that big, which is what's the expectation? Of course, anything can happen, just to be clear. But that's the expectation. Then, really, dun sa kanyang legacy years, 2025, 2026, 2027, he has to go all in and really do something major in a good way. In a good way so that the Philippines is on a good path, regardless of who's the next president, which is something we cannot control. Alright? Okay. Again, see, completely spontaneous, out of nowhere. Ganito po dapat ang diskurso natin, no? Hindi ito yung, ako prof ako attorney ako ekonomista ako. Hindi. I mean, of course, pasensya na kay attorney Poon at saka yung mga ganyan experts sa on-clause. Pero, the way we discuss about our governments and politics should be in a way na hindi siya exclusionary. And the fact na I talk to people from all across the political spectrum, si Banat Bay, si attorney Libayan, 'di ba? And dito si Secretary Llama, si Leloy, si ganyan. Nakakausap natin. The reason I do this 360 is precisely because doon talaga lumalabas yung diversity of views at yung colorfulness ng ating politika. Kaso ang problema is kung nasa silo-silo ka lang, narinig mo lang isang side. So which is the parable of the 4 blind men, diba? I don't know if I think it's from Rumi, the poet. Like, there were 4 blind men, and each of them just touched a part of an elephant. One just touched the head, one touched the rear, one touched the side, and each of them thought that's the entire universe because they couldn't see the full elephant, right? Yun po yung problema natin. It's like the parable of the 4 blind men, each of them just touching one side of the elephant and thinking that's the entire universe. Yun po yung nagiging problema natin when we have conversation in silos. When yung mga legal experts together, yung mga DDS together, yung mga Dilawan together. But when you do this kind of 360 degrees conversation and try to talk to people from very diverse background with very different expertise, then lumalabas talaga saan tayo galing. Lumalabas talaga yung validity of arguments. And what I really appreciate kahapon, especially dun sa 2-hour conversation natin with Attorney Libayan, was bigayan siya. Like, I'll make a point, he'll make a counterpoint, and then I'll make a counterpoint, but walang bitterness, walang yabangan, ako, ganito ako, ikaw. No, nothing at all. For me, that's even more important. Not only the diversity of views, but the ability to agree to disagree, and sometimes realize that actually you don't have much of a disagreement. And I think with Attorney Libayan, I barely have any fundamental disagreement. More of a nuances here and there, more of a leaning a little bit to this side of argument than the other. But overall, I really appreciate this kinds of conversation. Alright? So I hope nakikita niyo why we're doing what we're doing, and I'm super, super thankful dun sa mga ating mga kametan, especially ngayon, pati mga kabatas natin, marami dito sa YouTube. Ang lakas ni Atty. Libayan sa YouTube Pansin natin, ang lakas talaga niya sa YouTube. So sa YouTube, kitang-kita natin yung mga supporters ni Atty. Libayan, they're coming in. And I felt yung conversation namin was very complimentary. Very, very complimentary. So we hope to continue this kind of conversations. And yeah, thank you very much on that note. And keep in touch, guys. Thank you very much, and God bless.